My co-host, Anthony Bellino. Anthony, I want to wish you a happy birthday. First of all, you were the birthday boy this week, so before we start today's show, happy birthday to you.
Thank you very much, Tori. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course. Well, Anthony, so much to talk about today. Obviously, first off the top, we will get to a little bit more about this later on, but lots of injuries on both sides of the ball for both teams. We just got word just before the show started that Teddy Bridgewater will not be playing at quarterback for the Panthers today.
Yeah, that definitely changes things for this Panthers offensively. No Teddy B, and of course, as you mentioned, we'll get to the big name Christian McCaffrey in the backfield. But what does that mean for P.J. Walker, who is the backup, who will probably get the starting nod for the Panthers? He played for Matt Rule, Carolina's coach, during their days at Temple, so they have a very good familiarity there. So I'm very interested to see how P.J. Walker and how Matt Rule and how this offense is going to operate without some of their key weapons, with a little bit of a change. But at least those two have a background and have a chemistry. If you're a Carolina Panthers fan, that's something that you can look forward to. And also something that, for Lions fans on the defensive side of the football, something that you definitely want to be aware of, and don't sleep on Carolina just because Teddy B isn't in the lineup.
Absolutely. All right, Anthony. The Lions left for Carolina yesterday. They hit the tarmac to take on the plane and head off on the road. And I got to say, we looked at these outfits before the show started, and I am impressed. The guys have really been bringing it this year.
Yeah. Well, let's highlight the pocket watch right here. I mean, let's
look at this.
It's
like a Sherlock Holmes look here.
Yeah, I love it. A lot of color schemes, a lot of patterns.
Oh my goodness!
You double checked it for the camera too. I like that. You got to have good presence, right? You got to know where the camera's at all times. Make sure you get the shot. Tori, I saw you, heard you mention the floral patterns earlier. The guys are looking
they've
good.
Been bringing those out quite a bit. I gotta say, I have been impressed. We don't really have anywhere else to wear nice outfits to these days, so they're bringing it on the road.
We can't leave the house, so at least the guys look good for the camera for our pregame show, right?
Exactly. And hopefully they are on their way to a win in Carolina. Obviously, a lot to consider as we begin to preview this game, and it all starts with the inactives presented by Henry Ford Health System. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey is out for this game. Teddy Bridgewater out as well. Anthony, those two are very big losses for the Panthers.
Yeah, this is huge. And without Christian McCaffrey, the way that this offense kind of takes a turn for the worse, because when you talk about an individual's overall impact in the game of football, with a 53-man roster and the fact that you have to be strong on offense, defense, and special teams, all three phases, right? Christian McCaffrey is one of those outliers where, from a non-quarterback position, he would be the most important person on the field because of his level of production. He's like 60 to 70% of the offense in terms of touches, yards gained, receptions. He can do it all. So when he's not out there on the field, suffered a shoulder injury last week, that's a huge blow to Carolina offensively.
Absolutely, and we know how the Lions have struggled to stop the run. So not having Christian McCaffrey out there for the Panthers is definitely a loss for them. Although I will say Mike Davis has done a pretty good job stepping in for Christian McCaffrey. I can say this because I had Christian McCaffrey on my fantasy team. Obviously had to pick up Mike Davis in his stead, and he hasn't done too bad. Although I've missed Christian McCaffrey, Mike Davis hasn't done too bad.
Yeah, Mike Davis has been, you definitely can't replace Christian McCaffrey, but that's a very good substitute to have.
Yeah, all right, let's take a look at the Lions inactives presented by Henry Ford Health System. Obviously, we knew those top three on Friday, Kenny Golladay, DeAndre Swift, and Danny Amendola. They were already ruled out on Friday. Kenny Golladay still dealing with that hip injury. DeAndre Swift showed up with a concussion this week. Danny Amendola missed practice this week as well. Those are big losses for this Lions offense. But Matthew Stafford is active with his thumb injury.
Having Matthew Stafford is huge. And this is very interesting for the Lions trying to run the football because Carolina, their run defense is allowing just shy of 125 yards per game on the ground at roughly 4.75 yards per carry. So this is a really interesting opportunity, not only for Adrian Peterson, but we have kind of a throwback vintage game from AP. What will Kerryon Johnson do as far as his amount of touches and carries as well? Because DeAndre Swift, who's definitely, I think, kind of progressed and made his way to be maybe the feature back or the lead back because of his ability to run, because of his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. How will Kerryon and Adrian Peterson pick up the slack without DeAndre Swift potentially getting those 10 to 15 touches?
Absolutely. Certainly a shame for DeAndre Swift to suffer that concussion, especially after having the game that he did last week in his first start for the Lions. That was certainly exciting for him, and he showed that he definitely deserved the opportunity. And we wish him well. We hope he gets better soon. But Anthony, it is week 11 in the NFL. this is typically what we tend to see with all these injuries across the board. It just happens this time of year. So let's take a look around the league with our BetMGM out-of-town previews, see what these other teams are up to. Anthony, which games are you keeping an eye on today?
Okay, I've got some big ones. Obviously, in the 1 o'clock window, Baltimore and Tennessee. This is a huge matchup for two teams. Baltimore has struggled a little bit of late. Tennessee as well. Maybe not off to the hot start that they were at. Both teams at 6-3 right now. So I want to keep an eye out on that game all day long. Of course, we have our two divisional opponents, Green Bay against Indianapolis in the 425 window, as well as the Vikings against the Dallas Cowboys. I'd have to lean in favor of the Vikings there. Very interested to see what the Colts can do against Green Bay. Do we have a vengeance game between Kansas City and Las Vegas later on tonight on Sunday Night Football? Because remember, KC fell to Vegas in their first go around. And then Monday Night Football, spectacular game. Tampa, Tom and company hosting Jared Goff and the LA Rams. So that LA Rams defense did such a good job. The secondary did against DK Metcalf the week before in Seattle. What will they do against Mike Evans and company in Tampa Bay's passing offense? So a lot of really intriguing matchups there. Oh, yeah, and of course, Tua's going for his fourth consecutive win, I believe, against the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, absolutely. Anthony, I know you usually keep a little extra screen up during the game. You like to keep an eye on a couple games at a time. So which one are you having on during the 1 o'clock window? Is it Titans-Ravens?
Oh, yeah, probably.
Okay.
Just because that game, I mean, just for Tennessee and the AFC and the playoff picture and the way that everything is kind of shaking out, Tennessee has really hit a bump in the road. Can Tannehill and Derrick Henry, can they get back on track? Lamar Jackson and company in Baltimore, same type of deal. I think after last season, maybe we took for granted how difficult it is to win football games in the NFL, and you just kind of pencil in, well, Baltimore was, had a magical season last year. It's just going to carry over, but that's not true. I mean, any given Sunday, there's a reason that cliche is used, throughout the NFL football season, and it's because of teams like the Baltimore Ravens that you can hit some speed bumps in the road. They got to try to figure a way to get some things worked out before the second season.
All right, I like it. I'll rely on you to keep me updated on those out-of-town scores throughout the day today. Let's take a look at our NFL standings around the league. Obviously, the Lions are hoping to get back to 500 with a win in Carolina today. Let's look at what's going on in the AFC. Anthony, which teams are sticking out here? Pittsburgh still undefeated is pretty incredible.
Yeah, Pittsburgh still without a loss. The New York Jets still without a win. And very important for people to remember, this year's a little bit different because of that extra playoff seed. Yeah. So the number one seed in each conference is going to get the bye, and then we're going to have the 3 wild card games. So you're going to potentially see, maybe, as we kind of look at it the way it is right now, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Buffalo, Miami, Kansas City, Vegas, and then Indianapolis and Tennessee. 2 teams out of each division. Somebody's got to go. The Browns are right there in the hunt as well, kind of tied there with the Vegas Raiders, and then whoever would be that second team in the AFC South at 6-3. So there's some very good matchups all across the board, and some very important games as this second season gets closer and closer and closer. I mean, we're in the hunt, right?
Absolutely. Lots of tight races, even with expanded playoffs this year. So we'll see who's able to get it done. Let's turn to the NFC now. Obviously, the NFC East, we've talked about them just about every time we've talked about these standings. 3-5-1 gets you first place in the NFC East for the Eagles. But then you look over at the division the Lions are in, the NFC North. Green Bay atop there at 7-2. Chicago a little bit behind them, but that definitely is a tough division for the Lions.
You said it very nicely about Chicago. I mean, let's face it, they've fallen off a cliff over the last month of the season. It was amazing the way that they had started. And I believe, 4 straight losses for the Chicago Bears. Detroit right there in the hunt with Minnesota. Going into the year with the expanded playoffs, it looked like the NFC West on paper. It was like, wait a minute, you could actually see an entire division have an opportunity to make the playoffs. And right now, Seattle, Los Angeles, and Arizona circle one of those Arizona losses handed to them by your very own Detroit Lions. So interesting to see how that playoff picture works out. You can kind of pencil in New Orleans and Tampa Bay just because Atlanta and Carolina, so many games back already. Interesting to see what happens to New Orleans now that Drew Brees has fractured like every rib in his body. That's a huge mess there. And then in the East, I mean, the NFC least, they've just been awful this year. Somebody's got to get in. Those are the rules. But the Lions very much in the hunt right now in Week 11. Very important. This is a huge game. We've highlighted Detroit and Carolina there on the standings just because the winner of this game, I mean, if you're Detroit and you have the opportunity to get back to 500 at 5-5, you're right there with the puncher's chance.
Absolutely. And then just 4 days later, you have that Thanksgiving Day game here at Ford Field against the Houston Texans. Usually we see that against a divisional opponent. This year, it's actually an AFC opponent. So we'll see how the Lions are able to come out of November, because they've got a tough slate of December games. So these next 2 games in these next 5 days or so are really important for this team, Anthony.
Very much so, and a very quick turnaround as well. Always difficult to play on a Sunday and then have to get geared up and ready to go 4 days later, because you have your travel, obviously playing a road game and then coming home. That's difficult, and then your prep time to prepare. I don't know, luckily, can I say that out loud? Luckily, it's the Houston Texans, just because of some of the struggles that they've gone through, a lot of turnover and, in their front office and their coaching staff and trying to figure things out. Deshaun Watson's having a great year, individually, but, this is a team game.
But we won't preview the Thanksgiving Day game too much, because we want you to come back for the pregame show on Thanksgiving Day, because obviously we will be here with plenty to talk about then. But Anthony, it is time for my favorite part of the week. It's our fantasy picks recap. We're going to look back at who we chose last week. Let's throw up the graphic here. Here are Anthony and I's picks in fantasy from last week. I said start Aaron Rodgers. You said start Kyler Murray. I said Allen Robinson. You said Robert Woods. I said Nick Chubb, which is looking pretty good. That might have been my best pick of the week. You said Aaron Jones. That one didn't quite work out for you as much.
No, it didn't work out as well. What happened to Aaron Jones? Like, where was that guy at? Come on. I mean, Nick Chubb had a great game. I wasn't sure how much time he would get, coming back off an injury, and of course Kareem Hunt being there. So for Nick Chubb, and then Robert Woods, what happened to him against Seattle? My goodness. I mean, the LA Rams had a ton of success against that Seahawks defense, but it just none of them went in favor of my guy. And thanks for Kyler Murray for at least keeping me somewhat competitive this week. Tori, I know this is why this is your favorite segment, is because the last 2 weeks I've been absolutely hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok, and flat out deceived by the statistics, beat twice in a row.
All right, well, on that note, let's see who won the Jess Trophy this week. It's me again. That's 3 weeks in a row, y'all. I'm pretty good at this game.
Yeah, well, it's very convenient. We just started keeping track of this too, right? I mean, I'm like, hey, what happened to the first couple weeks? But no, you've just been handing it to me, and I'm going to get back on track, though. You can find out who our picks are a little bit later on in the pregame show. But this is the week I'm getting back on track. I just want to let you know that, Tori.
All right, best of luck, Anthony.
Well, thank you very much. And as always, we want to thank Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan for being the presenting partner of today's pregame show here, and always love having Blue Cross Blue Shield be a part of it. Fans, a reminder, make sure you tune into Fox 2 each Sunday at 10 a.m. for Lions Game Day Live. And tune into Fox 2 tonight at 11 to watch Sportsworks and Lions Game Night for a complete recap and interview from today's game. If you are watching from the Detroit Lions broadcast region, make sure you tune into your local Fox station to catch today's game, which kicks off at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And of course, at each home game this weekend, we're recognizing select teachers as our champions of the game, fueled by Campbell's Chunky. We're counting on fans to nominate high school teachers who make a significant impact in their communities. Just be sure to visit DetroitLions.com/champion to nominate a deserving high school teacher today. And of course, we want to see your game face. You have the chance to be featured on today's show. Just post using the hashtag DTE GameFace and show us your game day energy. Don't miss out on your opportunity to be a part of the Lions Game Day. Post now with the hashtag DTE GameFace.
Hi, and welcome, fans. We're talking to one of the Detroit Lions' legendary players, Lomas Brown, 18 years in the National Football League, 11 years with the Detroit Lions. And look, Lomas, we're coming up to a special time of the year. The holidays are approaching, Thanksgiving Day, and we talk about turkey, and we talk about all that other stuff. We talk about the parade and the turkey trot races in Detroit, but nothing is better than the centerpiece of Thanksgiving Day in Detroit. Thanksgiving football, Detroit Lions. What does it mean to you? You played in 11 of those games, watched them as a kid, broadcasting them now.
Mike, they were everything to us. I just remember Wayne Fonts used to always have such an important emphasis on Thanksgiving. You know, we have to win this Thanksgiving Day game. The whole nation is watching you guys. You're the first game to play on Thanksgiving. This is a tradition that the Lions have had for so many years. So you have to play well on this game. I always remember Wayne emphasizing that, and also saying that your family's there. Your family's watching you throughout the nation, so you want to represent them well. So to me, you know, it meant everything for us to go out there on that Thursday at 12 o'clock and be the first game to play on Thanksgiving Day game.
Yeah, and it started in 1934 in Detroit. The first year here, the Lions were in Detroit. Now, no wisecracks, I wasn't here. But Lomas, you know, as a young man, as a rookie in 1985, a high draft pick from the University of Florida, what was it like to run out on that field on Thanksgiving Day, Pontiac Silverdome, 80,000 fans?
Mike, I say the Dallas playoff game was the loudest I've ever heard the Silverdome, but I have to say Thanksgiving games, they were always almost as loud as that Dallas game. You know, because people come out. That's what I think a lot of the fans all year long, that's something that they look forward to. It's something where I hear small kids talk about watching the game with their dad or going to the stadium to watch the Thanksgiving Day game. So we knew how much of a tradition it was here. And the run out on this field, the run out on the Silverdome field with 80,000 cheering you on, man, it just gave you goosebumps each and every time you went out there, man. And it wasn't just me, Mike. It was every guy on the team.
You know, Lomas, and things change in all of sports are changing in pro football too. And one of the things we're talking about fan engagement, and part of that, realistically, is, you know, fantasy is part of it, but so is the online and mobile gambling that people can do that's going to become legal in the state of Michigan. How much do you think that'll bring fans even further under the tent?
Mike, I think that's going to be huge. I mean, look, I put a wager on the Lions before the season, and I did it online. And my wager was the Lions would win more than 7 games. So I took the plus on that. So it's gotten me into it. And I'm a guy that doesn't do a lot of betting, but it's so convenient now. So now I'm looking at the prop bets, and I'm putting me a couple in. So, Mike, the Lions got to win 7+ games for me to win my money.
I'm with you on that one, okay, Lomas? Hey, thanks for being with us. Lomas Brown talking about Thanksgiving Day.
Thanks, Mike.
Welcome back into the Detroit Lions pregame show presented by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. We appreciate you guys joining us on this snowy Sunday morning ahead of the Lions game against Carolina. We're here at Ford Field, and I am joined on our Henry Ford Health System update desk by Tim Twentyman. Tim, thank you so much for joining me. We got a lot to talk about today.
Yeah, there's a little bit to talk about on both sides of the ball, I suspect.
Absolutely. Well, let's start off with the Lions offense. Tough news for the Lions on Friday. Kenny Golladay, DeAndre Swift, and Danny Amendola were all ruled out for this game, but Matthew Stafford is active today. He's missing those 3 weapons. What are you expecting from QB1?
Well, it's good that QB1 is there, obviously. That's the key to the entire operation. But when you look at those 3 guys on your screen right there, that's 79 catches, over 1,000 yards, 4 touchdowns of production that you're losing. And so, you know, look, this is the NFL, right? It's not a matter of if injuries are going to happen, it's when. And so now, you know, the Lions are dealing with them, and it's up to some other guys to step up, right? You know, we've seen that in weeks past. And I think the good thing for Matthew Stafford is he has T.J. Hockenson. He has Marvin Jones Jr. Those are the 2 leading receivers in terms of receptions and touchdowns on the year. So, you know, you feel good about that. Marvin Hall has shown that he can step in and make plays. And then you got 2 guys who are going to get an opportunity in Mohamed Sanu, a veteran guy, over 400 catches in this league. Yeah, he's been around. He knows the drill. And then Jamal Agnew is a key to me, too. Without Danny Amendola, I would suspect Jamal Agnew gets a little bit more run inside. He's still kind of figuring out that transition from quarterback to wide receiver. We've seen some flashes, his ability to make plays. And so he might get a few opportunities to get more in the slot today. And we'll see if he can make the most of his opportunities as well.
Yeah, good to see Jamal Agnew back out there. He spent some time injured this season, but he is playing today. He'll be back out there at the returner position as well. Tim, you know, without those weapons that Matthew Stafford has, this probably gives us a nice opportunity for you to talk about a guy that you generally like to talk about on this pregame show.
My guy.
He's definitely going to be important today, though. There's no denying it.
Yeah, he is. You know, we're talking about T.J. Hockenson, the tight end, obviously. Exactly. And, a guy that's been super productive all year long. You look at the numbers right there, the 5 touchdowns. He's tied with Marv for the team lead. But last week was a little bit of a down week for TJ. He was targeted 4 times, but had just 2 catches for 13 yards. That was his lowest production of the season. And, look, if I'm Carolina, right, and I'm their defensive coordinator, and I'm heading into this football game, I'm going to say, look, they're down Kenny, they're down Danny Amendola, they're down their most explosive running back. I'm going to shoot a heavy dose of cover 2, cover 3. They play a lot of nickel and a lot of dime in their base sets anyway. So I'm going to play cover 2, cover 3, play back, and I'm not going to let them make big plays. Well, Tori, where's the open spots in that, right? Yeah. It's the middle part of the field, right? Yeah. It's getting right behind those linebackers, in front of those deep safeties, and that's the area that TJ Hockenson roams. And so I would expect him to have a big opportunity to make some plays today with Kenny and Danny down. And then obviously Marv on the outside too. But TJ is one for me especially that I think will have an opportunity to make some plays. I think he'll be a favorite target of Matthew Stafford early and often, just with how I suspect Carolina's going to play it and then you being down those weapons.
Yeah, I mean, you do predict that quite almost
and I've been
every
right.
week.
I've been right last week, maybe not.
But I will say this week, I think it's safe to say you'll be right on that one. And another guy I think will receive a lot of targets today is Marvin Jones Jr. He's really stuck out in these last couple of games for the Lions, and he'll probably be a big target today.
Yeah, you look at it there, the 33 receptions, that only trails TJ. And the 12.2, you love to see that too. Those 5 touchdowns, that's tied with TJ. He's really come on with Kenny being out. And, the thing about Marv is look, he's been in this league a long time, but he is just one of the most consistent guys year in and year out. He might have a bad game here or there. You might not go to him a lot. And look, he was excited on the practice field this week. He's ready to roll. But you throw him the football and he makes plays and he finds the end zone and he's been consistent year in and year out that way. He's been a really solid number 2, and he's a guy that I think if asked to, he can step up and be a wide receiver 1 in a limited role. Limited time frame, if need be. And so with Marvin Jones Jr., with TJ Hockenson, Kerryon Johnson showing that he can, make plays out of the backfield, receiving the football. And so I think they'll be all right. And as long as number 9 is ready, and I heard he was slinging it around pretty good on Friday. So I would suspect that there's not that huge of a drop-off. They've played plenty of games without Kenny this year, right? And so they're used to this. Danny has been kind of a rock in the middle for them, but they've got some other weapons that can fill that void. And so, I don't think it's going to be too big of a hit on offense for this team. They've got all those guys up front. That offensive line's been playing well. Adrian Peterson has 2 games over 75 yards rushing this year, so he's been productive. So I think they have enough guys to move the football and score points against Carolina today.
Well, you'd like to see number 9 jogging out onto that field in Carolina there. The players are starting to take the field for warm-ups. We'll get you as many shots of those as we can as this pregame show rolls on. Tim, we've talked about what happens in the passing game without the weapons that they're missing today. What happens in the run game without DeAndre Swift?
Yeah, bad timing for the rookie. Really it is. He gets his first start last week against the Washington football team, and what does he do, right? He has 149 scrimmage yards. He has a receiving touchdown. He was really the catalyst of everything they did on offense. And so, you hate for the concussion to arise on Thursday and then him have to deal with that and then miss the game. They're going to feel his loss, certainly. But, like I said before, Adrian Peterson and Kerryon Johnson have gotten plenty of reps this year, over 150 between those 2 guys, too. Now, DeAndre Swift led them in reps, but I think that's really, Tori, been the benefit of this running back by committee approach that they've done all the way up until this point. So it's not a situation where DeAndre was your guy, he's been your guy for 9 weeks, and now, right. Oh no, he can't go, somebody else has got to step in. Adrian Peterson's been doing it. He's been getting consistent reps. Same with Kerryon Johnson. Now he's played majority of a 3rd down role, but he's mixed in some, and he's made some plays as well. And so you'll see Adrian right there on your screen, 371 yards. You like the average to be above 4. You'd like a couple more touchdowns, but look, he's been steady, and he's shown that he can make explosive plays, explosive runs. He's going to get a lot of carries early in this game on early downs, and then they're going to mix Kerryon Johnson in. He's going to continue to play his 3rd down role, but I would suspect he gets a few more carries than he's seen too, and when he's gotten those opportunities this year, he's made the most of them. And so Jonathan Williams might mix in a little bit too, but I think that's really been the benefit of keeping all three of those guys involved all year. Now you've got a situation where nothing really changed. It's pretty seamless because those guys have gotten so much work this year that you could just kind of go with those two and then see where it rolls.
Offensive line taking the field there in Carolina. They've got a big job ahead of them today, keeping Matthew Stafford clean so he can find those weapons downfield, and obviously blocking for a run game that is missing DeAndre Swift. Tim, how do you feel like this affects the game plan today with how many weapons Matthew Stafford is missing? Do they rely more on the pass or do they rely more on the run today?
I think they'll want to be balanced. Like, it's the game plan pretty much, every week for Darrell Bevel. This Lions offense is at its best when they can run the ball effectively and consistently early in games. No, they don't have to be tearing it up, but, you've got to have some quality runs, 4+ yards, put yourself in good down and distance situations. That's when they've been able to hit Marvin Hall Jr. and Kenny Galladay and open things up for the deep portion of their passing game. And so that's really, I think, the plan with DeAndre, without DeAndre, with Kenny, without Kenny. I think they feel confident in the pieces that they have, the depth they have, that they can run the same type of game plan and try to be consistent on offense, and they don't have to change a whole lot of things up because of who they do or don't have. I think they like the guys that they have in the depth.
Absolutely. Well, before we move on from the offense, I do want to touch quickly on that offensive line. What a job they did last week against that Washington front. Stacked with first-round picks, they were able to pretty much shut them down, kept Stafford clean, and obviously gave DeAndre Swift a huge day in the run game.
Yeah, I think, what was it, 1 sack and 1 quarterback hit? From that defensive
Crazy.
line, it was really a great performance. And, they were mixing in a guy, Ode Abushi, in there too, a guy who hasn't played a ton this year, obviously has a lot of experience and has played before, but that unit's been great, really, I think, all year. And it's really been a consistent bunch, led by Frank Ragnow, their center. Still hasn't given up a sack, one of the best centers in the league. And then Taylor Decker, your left tackle. When you talk about a left tackle in this league and the guys that he has to face week in and week out, we're talking about week 11, he doesn't have a sack allowed as a left tackle. I mean, he's playing really, really great football. And so you're good in the middle. You're good on the left. You've pieced together the right. You love where Jonah Jackson, the rookies, coming along. And so, I think Detroit's got something going up front, certainly. And so, we've talked a lot about the skill position pieces that they're missing today. Well, if you handle business up front, and you're really good, these are NFL backs, right? Anybody can run through those lanes at this NFL level. If you win the battle up front, you win the trenches, you keep Matthew Stafford clean, and you push Carolina's talented defensive front back like they did with Washington last week, they've got a shot to be, like we said, just the same type of offense, be consistent, and it starts with winning it up front.
Absolutely. Great point by you, Tim. We talked a lot of offense, but we still got to talk defense, and we will do that just after this quick break, so don't go away.
This year, it's been more challenging for kids to get 60 minutes of play every day.
And while some of our favorite team sports and activities might not be happening, there's still a ton kids can do.
There's running, bike riding,
yoga, very calming,
I think that's karate,
and even dancing.
He's got some moves. To see more ways to help kids be active,
visit healthiermichigan.org.
Priority shift from rush hours to slow breakfasts, from busy schedules to scheduled downtime. And as life happens, shifts and surprises are sure to follow. At Priority Health, we'll always be ready to shift with you, from complicated policies to ones written by humans, from a plan for 1 to a plan for 3. Because your priorities have shifted, maybe it's time your health insurance did too.
Welcome back into the Detroit Lions pregame show presented by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. I'm your host, Tori Petry. We've been chatting a little bit of the Lions offense in Carolina with Tim Twentyman. Tim joins us again now to talk about this Lions defense. They certainly have an interesting day ahead of them because they will not be facing Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback. He is inactive today. Tim, how does that affect this game?
Well, it affects it big time, I think. I mean, when you're talking about when you talk about Teddy Bridgewater, you're talking about a guy who's second in the NFL in completion percentage, 72%, only behind Drew Brees. And so, look, he's efficient with the football, right? This is a Carolina offense behind Bridgewater that's top 5 in explosive plays in the league. They're number 6 in 20-plus yard completions. And so they're explosive with him. They've got some skill position weapons that like to get down the field, and he's been really good at delivering the football. And so now you look to a guy in Walker who, doesn't have a ton of experience. It's XFL and then some spot duty. And so those guys right there, I think, have to be looking for opportunities as you see the defensive backs come onto the field. They've got to be looking for opportunities to make some plays against an inexperienced quarterback. And now Walker brings some athleticism. He rushed for over 700 yards at Temple. And look, he knows this offense because Matt Rule was the head coach at Temple when
right.
Walker was there for all 4 years. And so there's some familiarity there. Rule obviously knows what Walker can do, and Walker knows this offense. And so I don't think the offense changes as much, but how efficient will it be with Walker starting versus Bridgewater? That's, I think, the key factor there, because Bridgewater has been really, really so good. The heart and soul, Matt Rule said, of that offense, and so that's a big loss for them, obviously.
Well, they've got another key loss as well, because Christian McCaffrey will not be playing in this game. He spent much of this season injured, made a brief return, but is injured again. The Lions have struggled to stop the run on defense a lot this season, but they won't be facing Christian McCaffrey. It looks like it could be Mike Davis. How does that change things?
Well, it changes things, I think, especially in the passing game, because when you look at Christian McCaffrey and what he brings to the game in terms of, his ability to catch the football out of the backfield, but not just that, but line up in the slot and run routes like a receiver. I think that's what makes Christian McCaffrey a little bit different than everybody else. Mike Davis has 47 catches on the year, which is a lot, but they're different. They're the swings. They're
right.
in the flats, right? They're not the options and stuff that Christian McCaffrey would run that result in huge plays. And so that's maybe the difference. But look, Mike Davis is a capable guy. He's averaging 4.2 yards per carry. So, he can hurt the Lions if the Lions allow them. And we've seen when the Lions have stopped the football, or stop the run game, they've been great, right? When they've allowed 77 yards, I think, on average in their 4 wins, that number is over 150 yards in their losses.
Right.
And so there's the correlation, right? Mm-hmm. And so you've got to be good. I don't care who's running the football. This is an NFL running back. He's been doing it for a long time, and he can beat you if you don't have your run fits and you're not stout up front. And so stopping the run's got to be key, first and foremost. I think with Matt Rule, with the backup quarterback, he's going to want to establish a run. He's going to want to take a lot of the pressure off that guy, right? He's going to want to get into some good down and distance situations. You don't want 3rd and 10, 3rd and 11 with Walker, right? An experienced guy. And so I would expect them to count on that run game a little bit more today, and Detroit's got to be really good about stopping it early.
All right, we've talked about who will and won't be playing for the Panthers. Now let's talk who needs to be able to stop that Lions offense, Lions defense. Who are the key players on defense for you today, Tim?
Well, there's a few of them. I think it starts with the edges and up front with Romeo Okwara, who's really been solid all year. You look at the numbers right there, the 6 sacks, leads the team. And he's got an opportunity, I think, if he continues to play the way he is, to get double digits. And the Lions haven't had that in obviously a couple of years. Probably going back to Ziggy would be my guess at the last one. And so he's been really, really steady, and he's been a force. And now you add Everson Griffin on the other side, and we saw last week he set a franchise record with 5 quarterback hits and also had a sack. And so when those two are humming together on the outside, right, that's that pressure that you need. That's that edge pressure that makes a quarterback step up, right, and then you're stepping up into hopefully the linebacker pursuit, those big guys in the middle, and it just you don't allow them to get out of the pocket and make plays. Where I think Walker is probably a little bit better than Bridgewater, in the open field at making plays with his legs.
Okay.
And so that's where those key guys are, those guys on the edge are going to be so key for them. Get after it like they did Alex Smith last week. I thought they generated some good pressure, and the Lions will be looking for that from their 2 edge guys, certainly.
Well, it's huge that those 2 guys have been playing so well, considering the fact that Trey Flowers is still on IR, and you're still getting really great play from your edge rushers on that defensive line, considering maybe your best player on defense isn't playing right now.
Yeah, and Austin Bryant is inactive too, and there's a guy that got a lot of snaps last week too. So it's the depth, I think, that you're talking about, is take the hit on the edge, and that's why they're going to rely a lot on those defensive linemen. You see Okwara leading them out right there. They're going to rely on Okwara and Griffin because the depth on the edge just isn't very good. And so you've got a little bit more of it, even without Deshaun Hand, who's inactive today too. I think they like where they've got with Danny Shelton and Nick Williams and Pinacini. So, I think they like the depth there, but they get real thin after Griffin and Okwara. So I would expect those guys to play a lot, and hopefully they can be effective and get after Walker early in this game.
How about in the secondary? Which players do you feel like need to step up in order to give the Lions a good game on defense today?
Well, I think it starts with Harmon for me. The safety, he's been the guy that's been opportunistic in terms of the interceptions. And then, you're talking about playing a backup quarterback, a guy who's only thrown 8 passes in the NFL. He's completed 3 of them, right? He's pretty rough around the edges. And so, can the wily veteran like a Duron Harmon confuse him in coverage? Watch those eyes and get himself in a position to make plays. Of any guy in the secondary, really, for me, Duron Harmon's been the guy that's been around the ball the most, had the most opportunities to make plays and key plays and interceptions. And so going against a backup quarterback, I think he's got to be feeling pretty opportunistic today about his chances to maybe get a big interception or make a big play down the field.
All right, so we're feeling like this could be a game where the defense really steps up. I mean, they're playing an injured Panthers offense. They're playing a backup quarterback here today. You feel like this could be a game where the defense really gets their footing?
Well, I think it's really needed for this defense, Tori.
Yeah.
Your offense is banged up, right? Now you're missing a few guys too, but you're not as banged up as the other side of the ball, and you've contributed to early leads, right? But you haven't played consistently enough as a defense to win more football games. I think some of the leads they've given up, it just really hasn't been consistent for 60 minutes, really all year for this defense. And so, what a great opportunity, right? You're trying to get back to 500. You're getting in the NFC playoff hunt, right? Your offense is banged up. Your quarterback's got a bum thumb. Hey, we need to step up. Let's make some plays, and let's be the solution to this one. And so it's a terrific opportunity waiting there. You're going against a backup quarterback. You don't have McCaffrey. We've talked about all those things as a defense, right? Step up, play early, play good the entire 60 minutes, and I think if they do that, Detroit's got a shot to get to 500 and feeling pretty good with Thanksgiving fast approaching.
All right, one last thing I want to touch on defense. Lions have got a lot of talented players at the cornerback position between Amani Oruwariye, Jeff Okudah, and Desmond Trufant. Help us understand how that cornerback position is shaken out there on the outsides.
Yeah, they've done a lot of different packages, a lot of different things. When they're all healthy, really what it turns into, at least using last weekend as an example, is Amani Oruwariye and Jeff Okudah kind of split reps, and they went with Oruwariye a little bit more last week. I think it was 54 reps versus 34 for Okudah, and really, when you look at Amani, he's probably been their best corner all year, at least their most consistent one. You look at the opponent completion percentage, you love that as a defensive coach. Touchdowns allowed 0, right? You love that as well. So he's been really, really good, but unfortunately, you've got the number 3 pick, right, who they feel really strongly about, who they think's got a great future, and they've got to fit him somewhere there too. And Desmond Trufant was playing really good last week, and so it's a good problem to have, right? You've got 3 guys at the corner position, and then Justin Coleman obviously in the nickel that you like. And so on the outside, they're just kind of rotating those guys in, trying to get them into the mix. But I would expect to see a similar situation as last week, where Amani Oruwariye, Jeff Okudah split, and depending on how they play early on, we'll see who gets more. But I think at this point, maybe it's probably Amani if last week holds true to this week.
All right, Tim, thank you so much for joining us, talking a little bit of Lions offense, Lions defense. We appreciate you as always.
Anytime, Tor.
Guys, we'll be right back with Mike O'Hara to preview the opponent's side of the ball. Don't go away. a live look down into pregame warmups in Carolina. The Lions are taking on the Panthers today at Bank of America Stadium, but we are here at Ford Field previewing the matchup. I'm Tori Petry, joined by Mike O'Hara down at the Henry Ford Health System update desk. Mike, thanks so much for hanging out with me on the pregame show.
It's always my pleasure, Tori.
Well, Mike, we have got quite a few things to talk about today, considering all of the injuries on the Panthers side of the ball. You and I had planned to talk about Teddy Bridgewater, but he will not be playing today, and neither will Christian McCaffrey. How does that affect things for this Panthers team?
Well, let me tell you how it affects me. This is my scouting report on Teddy Bridgewater, okay? And this is what I know about P.J. Walker. See that blank page?
Fair enough.
No, it hurts him. Look, Teddy Bridgewater, I don't think he's in the new breed of dynamic young quarterbacks in the National Football League like Mahomes and those guys who can run and do all this, just magical physical stuff. But ever since he came into the league in 2014, he's been a good, reliable, young starting quarterback. Look, he was 6-6 as a starter, as a rookie with the Minnesota Vikings, and 11-5 the next year, took him to a playoff. Then just last year, Tori, 5-0 in relief of Drew Brees down in New Orleans. So there's a guy who's been able to step into spots and win games. Now, it hasn't happened this year with Carolina, but through no fault of his. He had lost his best weapon, probably one of the best in the National Football League, with Christian McCaffrey, only available for 3 games and 6 touchdowns. And he was on the way to another Christian McCaffrey season like he had last year with 2,300 yards plus from scrimmage. So that's you're taking a big chunk. You're taking away your offensive leader and the quarterback, and you're taking back probably one of the 5 or 6 most dynamic offensive players in the National Football League. So that's a huge loss. It's more than a one-man loss. You're losing a really chunk out of your offense.
Absolutely. These are both huge losses for that Panthers offense. Obviously, like you said, P.J. Walker, we haven't been able to see him play yet, but, he's a guy who played at Temple with Carolina coach Matt Rule, so they are very familiar with each other. But stepping in for Christian McCaffrey at the running back position is Mike Davis, who we have seen play this year. He's a very different style running back than Christian McCaffrey. So what do you think we should expect from Mike Davis today?
Well, you're right about that, but I think everybody's different than Christian McCaffrey. Mike Davis is about, 20 pounds or something like that. What they kind of call a one-cut runner. He can cut and get going downhill, as they say, and really punish you. He's one of the leaders in the National Football League of broken tackles. He's had almost 400 yards rushing, and on this offense, this team, in fact, which just has its problems, as 5-game losing streak would indicate, he's really kind of stood out for them. And I think, look, the Lions have not been the best tackling team in the National Football League at times this year. And if Mike Davis gets on a roll, he'll keep rolling. I mean, he's a good, tough young football player who's looking to obviously take advantage of this opportunity he has with McCaffrey's absence to make a name and a role for himself.
Absolutely. So do you feel like with Teddy Bridgewater being out that this Panthers team will rely a little bit more on Mike Davis and the run game, considering they're starting probably P.J. Walker at QB? Well,
they should. I mean, that's what you would think. And one thing about P.J. Walker, and I just mentioned tackling. Now, look, full disclosure, I know almost nothing about him except looking at the stats lines. 3 for 8 for 15 yards in his National Football League career does nothing for me. But I understand when he played in the USFL, somebody used the words electric, and that means he can run. The Detroit Lions in the open field tackling hasn't been so great at times, so I think he could be a real threat. And look, they do have 2 wide receivers out there. They're different styles. Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore both have more than 700 yards receiving already. Anderson more of a control receiver, more of a big play man. He's averaging almost 19 yards per catch. Those guys, if they get the ball in their hands, they can hurt you, and they've proven so far through 9 games that they do get the ball in their hands. They both rank in the top 10 in the National Football League in receiving yards.
Absolutely. And DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson are going to be very important today for P.J. Walker. They are the experience that are going to help P.J. Walker along. So those guys are going to be a very tough challenge for the guys who are playing at cornerback. Look at Robbie Anderson's stats this season, 64 receptions. He's averaging 12.1 yards a catch. That's pretty good, Mike. They're really going to have to be on the lookout for him.
Yeah, you look at either one of them on their own, they've had a good year. And Robbie Anderson, they signed him as an unrestricted free agent. He had 4 years with the Jets, and I think Matt Patricia knew of him because he was a defensive coordinator of the New England Patriots. Probably played him 4 times with the Jets before he came here to Detroit. So
Right.
he knows Robbie Anderson and more, second-year player, highly drafted last year. Like I said, that 18 yards plus per average, you don't make that up. That shows he's got some speed and some dynamic ability, and he can get behind the secondary. The issue in that, don't let him get behind the secondary.
Absolutely. Well, my favorite Robbie Anderson moment from this year was definitely his "What's that bear doing?" quote from the mic'd up clip where he asked what the Panthers mascot was doing. It is, in fact, a panther and not a bear, but it is one of the most hilarious mic'd up clips I've ever seen. If you guys haven't seen it, I highly suggest you go find it before this game starts. But we've talked a lot about that Panthers offense, Mike. I want to talk about the Panthers defense. Who should the Lions be on the lookout there?
Well, they got a couple of young guys. Brian Burns, a defensive end, young defensive end, edge rusher, drafted in the first round a couple of years ago. He's got 11 and a half sacks in a season and a half for them. He was a guy I think the Lions looked at pretty strong. And then another one, Derek Brown, defensive tackle, drafted 9th overall. Really was probably the best interior defender in the draft this year. But for players like that, you don't have any sacks, so people kind of look at him and go, what's he done? Well, over time, and this kid really, he can change the line of scrimmage. He can really disrupt a running game, but he probably won't get his full due because he's not a guy who's going to get to the quarterback until this team develops a reputation on defense as a good, strong unit. Then you'll realize, at least the average person will realize that the value he really brings to that team.
Well, Derek Brown is a guy that the Lions are probably very well familiar with because he was up there at the top of the draft when the Lions were picking at number 3. He was one of the guys that was in the conversation as far as mock drafts go, as someone the Lions could target. They obviously went with Jeff Okudah and got themselves a solid corner. But I know, Mike, that you did some study on Derek Brown. What do you think of the season that he's having?
Well, I really liked him coming out. I really thought we talked about this back in April when we were back at just getting ready, doing our draft prep and all that in the combine. And somebody asked me, what would you think if they drafted Derek Brown? I said, look, I'm not going to say I wouldn't tear my hair out because I don't have enough to tear out, but it wouldn't have killed me at all. It wouldn't have bothered me at all. I wouldn't have hated that pick. I thought there might be a couple of better choices, but really he would have brought something to this defensive line that I think the Lions could have used. I like the Okudah pick though. That would have been my number 1 pick, but I thought he was really he was a mature kid too. He really was. Just the way he handled himself at the combine, everything he did stamped him as a professional and a future really, really good player in this league.
Well, like Tim Twentyman said earlier today, that Lions offense is beat up, but if that front offensive line can stop the Panthers front, that really is the key in Carolina today. Mike, we'll talk a little bit more of our keys to the game in just a minute. Guys, don't go away. We'll be back after this break.
This year, it's been more challenging for kids to get 60 minutes of play every day.
And while some of our favorite team sports and activities might not be happening, there's still a ton kids can do.
There's running, bike riding.
Yoga, very calming.
I think that's karate.
And even dancing.
He's got some moves. To see more ways to help kids be active,
visit healthiermichigan.org.
If we don't have live music, everybody will be lost.
America's bars, clubs, and stages need our help.
For each stream of this song, Crown Royal will donate to these cultural landmarks.
Let's make sure they stay.
Back to the Detroit Lions pregame show presented by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. I'm Tori Petry. We're talking all about this Lions matchup with the Carolina Panthers down in Carolina today. I'm Tori Petry. I'm joined at the Henry Ford Health System update desk by Mike O'Hara, who's real excited to talk about his keys to the game today. Mike, what do you think? What are the keys for the Lions?
I could hardly wait. I almost cut you off. No, I mean, look, I've got 4 things here, and it doesn't take a brain to come up with this. But number 1, Matthew Stafford. Look, I didn't have any doubt that he was going to play. I mean, I sort of wondered about his thumb, but anything that good has happened to this team, he's been right at the center of it, and I think he will be again today. Even with, the receivers that he's missing, those are big chunks of players missing, but he'll find a way to get the ball to somebody. I wouldn't be surprised if the tight end, T.J. Hockenson, gets a bigger role than he did last week when he only had 2 catches. Defense, guys, it's time to win a game defensively. It is. You think about it, the last 3 of the 4 games the Lions won, the defense gave up either the tying or the go-ahead points before Matthew Stafford got on the field and brought him back to win those 3 games, all on kicks by Matt Prater. And just the last one here, to me, guys, treat this game like it's the first game of a doubleheader. And by that I mean with an extended weather delay. today and next Thursday against the Houston Texans. The Lions have a 4-5 record. Win those two, you're 6-5. Then you start talking about playoff implication games in the month of December. Lose them, there's an entirely different conversation. Even if you split, you might be in a little bit of trouble. But win these two, to me, it's a doubleheader.
Absolutely. These two games are so key for the Lions. Obviously, with a win today, they can return to the 500 mark. That is their goal. And then they just have a game 4 days later here at Ford Field that we will talk plenty about when that Thanksgiving Day game comes. Mike, I know you talked about this defense and how important they're going to be today. Do you feel like this is the game where they can step up and kind of carry the weight of this team, considering all the injuries the Lions have on offense?
Well, it's time, Tori. It really is time. And the one thing I think we saw what Everson Griffin brought to this defense in the last 2 weeks. It's more than just energy, it's production. He had 5 hits on the quarterback last week with Alex Smith. Romeo Okwara leads the team with 12. Griffin is second with 5, and he's only been here 2 weeks.
Incredible.
Think about that.
Yeah.
So where are the other guys been? Look, I know they've got guys who are hurt, but you can win a game without Hand. You can win a game without Austin Bryant. You can win a game without of Trey Flowers, but having all 3 of those guys out at the same time really strips out a lot of your depth. So guys, buckle down and win this game. It's time to step up and take command.
All right, well, definitely an opportunity today considering how injured that Panthers offense is. We'll see how things go down in Carolina. Mike, thank you so much for joining us.
All right, Tori, thanks for having me.
All right, guys, we've still got to get to our fantasy picks. We've got that coming up for you in just a little bit.
To honor all the brave men and women stationed around the world who protect our freedom here at home, the Detroit Lions and Kroger invite you to submit nominations for your hometown heroes. Submit your nominations today at DetroitLions.com/hometown heroes for a chance to be honored this season.
Like to once again thank Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan for being the presenting partner of today's Detroit Lions pregame show. Make sure you tune into the home of the Detroit Lions after the game, WJR AM 760. You'll get all the latest info from the game, plus hear from head coach Matt Patricia and many of your favorite players. That's the Lions postgame show on WJR AM 760, the radio home of the Detroit Lions. This season, there's even more ways to get into the game thanks to Lions Bingo presented by BetMGM. Lions fans can play along all season long for the chance to win great prizes, including the grand prize each week of a weekend stay at an MGM Resorts location. Just download the Lions mobile app and register to play Lions Bingo each and every week. Play along during the game, and once you hit bingo, you score courtesy of our friends over at BetMGM. Learn more and lock in your Lions Bingo board before kickoff by visiting the official Lions mobile app today. And all morning, fans have been submitting photos showing their game face and game day energy using the hashtag DTE Game Face. And you can see fans from all over are prepared. They're set and ready to go for today's game. Thanks again to all of our fans who are part of today's DTE Game Face.
Love seeing all the fans get involved on social media. Let's bring it back here for our fantasy picks time of the day. Anthony, we're going to take a look around the league and take a look at who's been performing well so far this season. So first, let's throw up those season leaders in passing. Russell Wilson having an absolutely incredible year. He seems like he's on his way to be an MVP.
Yeah, he's definitely up there in the conversation. Of course, you want to scroll all the way down to number 8 there with Teddy Bridgewater, not in the game today for the Lions-Panthers game, so that's a little bit of a help because with his 13 touchdowns and 2,500 yards, he has definitely scored a lot of fantasy points.
Yeah, definitely. We'll turn to the receiving season leader, Stephon Diggs. He's a guy you've picked in fantasy so far this season, but down there at number 6, Robbie Anderson, who the Lions are facing today in Carolina, 772 yards so far this season through 10 weeks.
Yeah, their leading receiver. Who's got the assignment on him today? That'll be the big question for the Lions secondary.
Yeah, not as many touchdowns from him, but he does have quite a few yards. Let's take a look at the season leaders in rushing. Dalvin Cook up there on top. Could that be a preview of what's to come in our fantasy picks?
Foreshadowing, I believe, is what they call that. Foreshadowing,
yeah,
yes.
Exactly. So there's a look at who is leading in the rushing category. Now let's take a look at defense. Baltimore Ravens sit there on top, but how about the Steelers and Colts with 11 interceptions each?
Yeah, it's quite a high number. I'm very impressed by Miami as well because there's been so much focus on the offense. They were 3-3 at one point. Tua got the start. The defense has been scoring at an incredible rate as well. So Miami, one that really sticks out to me.
All right, guys, here's how it works. Anthony and I will pick players at quarterback, wide receiver, and running back, and we'll pick a line, and then we will revisit it next week to see who will take home the Jess Trophy named for our fabulous producer, Jeff, and we'll see who wins in fantasy this week. I've been the winner for 3 weeks in a row now. Anthony, let's see if you can take it home this week. Who are you picking at quarterback?
All of a sudden, Tori's favorite segment of the day. I'm going to go with Ben Roethlisberger. Pittsburgh taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jaguars 29th against the quarterback. Ben's averaging about 21 points per game. So let's go. We need a big game from Big Ben today.
I think my strategy when it comes to picking quarterbacks has been take a look at who's playing the New York Jets and then select that. So it's Justin Herbert this week, who's having a pretty good season on his own this week, although he doesn't quite look like that anymore. He got a haircut this week, and I got to say I missed the long hair.
I'm telling you what, I was surprised. I didn't know who that kid was. I was like, they got like an 8th grader playing quarterback for him at the Chargers.
Unrecognizable. Okay, who are you taking at wide receiver?
Wide receiver, I'm going to go, well, it's funny that you mentioned your quarterback because he's going to be throwing to that guy a lot today. Keenan Allen, need a big game from him. The Jets 23rd against wide receivers. Keenan averaging just shy of 20 fantasy points per game. Let's go Keenan Allen. Couple touchdowns, about 10,000 yards today. That would be great. I need all of it.
Well, ironically, I'm picking a guy that your quarterback is throwing to as well. It's Mapletron Chase Claypool. I'm thinking he's going to have a day today in Jacksonville. But as far as these guys go, Anthony, I'm hoping that my quarterback finds anyone on his offense besides Keenan Allen.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing with Chase Claypool. Like, let's go Deontay Johnson. Big game for him today for the Steelers, right?
Yeah, exactly. We'll see how that one shakes out and who wins that quarterback wide receiver battle. Now let's turn to running back. Who are you taking at the running back spot?
I went with a really off-the-beaten-path candidate here. I'm going with Naheem Hines from the Indianapolis Colts. He can run it. He can catch it. Hopefully he gets into the end zone. Green Bay has not been very good against the running backs so far this season, so let's go Naheem.
All right, I wasn't sneaky at all with my pick at running back this week. I went Dalvin Cook. Like I said, foreshadowed it in our rushing leader statistics. I had to go Dalvin. He's just been too good so far this season. Look at that, 954 rushing yards, 12 touchdowns already. Oh, and he's a good receiver as well. And they're playing Dallas, a defense that has struggled so far this season. So that's who I'm taking at running back. We'll find out who wins that Jess Trophy next week. But we got to pick our line as well. Who's it going to be, Anthony?
I'm going to go with Marvin Hall. No Kenny Galladay, no Danny Amendola. Marvin Hall gets into the end zone last week along with Marvin Jones Jr. It was Marvin's room here inside Ford Field. So I'm going to go with Marvin Hall, and hopefully he can take some of those catches that would be targeted for Amendola, would be targeted for Galladay, and he'll have a big impact in today's game for the Lions.
All right, guys, are you ready for this? I'm going to get real crazy with my Lions pick today. I'm saying you should start the Lions defense and special teams. I've been looking for a game to do this so far this season, and I just really feel like this is the one. With that beat-up Panthers offense, backup starting at quarterback, I really feel like this is the week. You start the Lions defense. I think they're going to have a game today. Both Mike and Tim talked about it. We obviously know the special teams have been absolutely fantastic so far this season for the Lions, so I say start defense, special teams. I'm going real out there. What do you think, Anthony?
I love it. I love the pick. I like the fact that it gets the punt block unit, which
You're
hey,
right.
that's a big part of what this Lions special teams group has done. Matt Prater kicking field goals, and of course, Mike O'Hara was talking about earlier. Can we find a way to get some pressure onto PJ Walker and get some guys in the backfield there to disrupt some things that could add to your points total there for the Lions defense and special teams. So I love the pick.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about it. We'll see how it shakes out in Carolina today. Now let's take you to our Ford starting lineups. It's our projected starting lineups on defense today. You got Nick Williams at defensive tackle, Danny Shelton at defensive tackle, John Finicini on that defensive line, and Romeo Okwara. Then at the linebacker spot, Christian Jones, Reggie Ragland, and Jamie Collins Sr. And finally, in our secondary with the defensive backs, Tracy Walker, Desmond Trufant, Amani Oruwariye, and Duron Harmon. All right, guys, that does it for our pregame show presented by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. I'm Tori Petry. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us on this snowy morning here in Detroit or wherever you are joining from. Don't forget the Lions kickoff in Carolina today against the Panthers at 1 p.m. Check your local listings and tune into the game. And then come right back here for our postgame show where we will break everything down. Thanks, guys, for hanging out with us. We'll see you after the game. It's like the one where you can just, like, I don't know, get the craziest with it. When we talk about the Lions, we have to be like